This next article from Nonsense Private Radio, backing Trump, some military officers spread conspiracies, urge martial law. First time Scott O'Grady made a splash at the news. The Air Force pilot had been shot down on a mission over Bosnia in 1995. He survived in the woods by eating leaves, grass, and bugs for 6 days before he was rescued. He returned to the U.S. a hero, but was welcomed by President Bill Clinton and appeared on the cover of Time magazine. He's in the news again, but for different reasons. The White House on Monday nominated O'Grady to be Assistant Secretary of Defense for International Security Affairs at the Pentagon. But in a review of his public statements, CNN found that O'Grady called former President Barack Hussein Obama some military general sworn socialist in a radio interview. On Twitter, he endorsed a tweet that called former Defense Secretary James Mathis a quote-unquote traitor. And he's been backed multiple conspiracy theories, retweeting the baseless claim that Hillary email server Clinton and George funding riots Soros somehow helped facilitate foreign interference in last month's election. Who's this? O.J. Simpson, Unequal Justice, the pilot story. Here's that guy when he was on the cover of Time magazine. O'Grady's nomination still requires Senate confirmation. Even if he clears that hurdle, he's almost certain to be replaced when when China's Joe Biden potentially might become the commander-in-chief next month. We'll see. I think he cheated. I think they rigged that election. They got videotapes of them stuffing ballots in Georgia. Come on, give me a break, man. There's like a water leak. And so we got to get everybody else out of here. And then when there's nobody there, then they pull out these suitcases full of ballots and start stuffing the machine. And then they come back and go, oh, no, we didn't send anybody home. No, we just been here counting the whole time. And like, everybody's like, no, actually, you sent us home. They like signed affidavits. And so the fake news industrial complex, like, no, we asked them. And they said, oh, no, we weren't ballot stuffing. Like, all right, okay, it's debunked. All right. See, then they write up all the articles and then everybody starts to believe it. Because at that point in time, people they don't got no legitimacy. You're like, oh, you're a leftist source. Oh, you're funded by Facebook. Or you're a Republican. So that means you don't have any more credibility anymore. And then like at this point in time, it's like ripe for the pickings to start a civil war here, man. Whenever both sides don't trust anything the other side has to say, both sides think the other side's trying to rig the elections, and then they hate each other because of all these rioting with the black looter mob, Antifa Nazi, or the Blamen. When they've been race rioting all summer up on that fake news, like from that methed out heroin addict, George Floyd died of the OD because he like was recovering for COVID, and then he was banging fentanyl, and he had like 14 lethal doses of fentanyl in his system and 2 lethal doses of meth, which would require an IV in order to get that much drugs in your system. And that dude, then people are race rioting up over that, and then race rioting over the George Floyd or the Jacob Blake race riots. You had race riots almost every night of the year, causing millions and millions and millions of dollars in damages, up to billion. I think it might even be billions. I don't know. I haven't looked at the total damage. If anybody knows the damage total, if you could just drop that in a comment down below. Don't know off the top of my hands how much damages it was. I'm presuming it's billions. Businesses don't just like recover just like that. They ain't got insurance on that stuff, man. Like they got to pay out. Like they're trying to, it's a pandemic, man. Like they barely even afloat even without your race riots. And then you start race rioting and burning down and looting their businesses. And then it kind of puts some people out of business. I mean, I know this is completely obvious, but apparently other people don't understand the entire concept of not stealing from each other. So I guess we have to go over this incredibly stupid stuff because some people suck. Grady, who headed the group's Veterans for Trump during the campaign, is just one of several prominent retired military officers who's promoted some of the most outlandish election conspiracy theories, in some cases voiced approval for martial law. In many cases, Trump has rewarded their loyalty. Best known figure is General Michael Flynn, Lieutenant General, retired, and the King of Meme's first national security advisor. Flynn lasted less than a month in that job, later pled guilty to lying to the FBI. Trump pardoned him on November 25th, which is kind of bullshit to say that he was lying to the FBI because I think that it was a trap. They set him up, they targeted him, they made it so that what he said, he said it in his normal life, like, yes, he actually did do that, but no, it wasn't for any sort of nefarious or criminal meanings. It wasn't lacking candor. That he was set up so that he would answer that question that way. And then he just admitted, he said, yeah, that happened. Less than a week later, on December 1st, Flynn tweeted his support for the right-wing group We the People, which called on Donald Trump to immediately declare a limited form of martial law, temporarily suspend the Constitution and civilian control of these federal elections for the sole purpose of having the military oversee the revote. The image of that doesn't look so good to the lefties, but I think the people on the right would want you to do that. So, I don't know where I stand on that. I'm going to have to give that a little bit more thought because that's some heavy stuff. They declare martial law in other kinds of natural disasters. If it's a hurricane, you declare national law, right? It's it's actually China. And it's a military level, like it was some straight up spy shit from GoldenEye. Then, all right, maybe the looks is going to be bad. I don't know. I trust General Flynn. I think that I would follow him into combat. I would trust this man. I don't believe anything that came from the deep state FBI agents, especially the ones that Carter Page sued. Those people were pretty deep state. Most people think deep state's like some quack conspiracy theory because up on Wikipedia, anything they don't like, they label it as a conspiracy theory because they're trying to marginalize you. People don't understand that Wikipedia is not legit. It's not. So here's a tweet from General Flynn. Hashtag We the People, at Sidney Powell 1, at LL Wood, at Dan Shavino, at Lou Dobbs, at Maria Baltimero, at Mark Levin Show, at Lofty 727. Got a press release. We the People Convention, WTPC, called for president to invoke limited martial law to hold new election. In full-page Washington Times ads, if legislators, courts, and Congress do not follow the Constitution. Well, personally think my own personal opinion on this matter is that the state's not following the evidentiary requirement. Who has the burden of proof? The evidentiary requirement is standard. A preponderance of the evidence means that more than likely the claims were true. This is, a lot of people say, it's like you're saying, like it's a 51% chance that it's true. It's more than likely, 51% chance. Same thing. Then you got the clear and convincing evidence standard, which is really high, which is the evidence standard that's required if you're being deprived of your fundamental federally protected rights, such as if a third party is trying to come take your kid away with two parents. They both have equal claim over the kid, so you would use preponderance of the evidence. Where if a third party individual is involved, you would have a higher evidence bar. You would need to prove with clear and convincing evidence parents aren't acting in their children's best interest. This doesn't happen in Oregon. They're doing it completely illegally. Don't get me started on that. I don't like those people. But in this specific case, I do believe the court would have to put the evidence precedent on the respondents in the case, the people who got sued, which was the elections officials, because it's violating your First Amendment right to petition the government. Let's look at this First Amendment real quick. What is this thing? The thing that is the godsend that just gift that keeps giving. Here it says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, prohibiting the free exercise thereof, bridging the free speech or right of the press or rights of the people to peacefully assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. So here's this thing. It says you got a right to petition the government. That means you got a right to vote. Also, it is also part of the privileges and immunities clause of the Constitution. It says the citizens of each state shall be entitled to all the privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. It means that if your driver's license works in your state, then you got the privilege to drive in another state, vice versa. Also, too, means you have a right to vote absentee. Just because you're out of the state doesn't mean you don't have a right to vote, to get an absentee ballot. But this absentee ballot has an X% chance of getting rejected if your signature doesn't match, or if you forget to sign the ballot, which about 0.36% of people forget to sign the ballots. That causes you to get your vote thrown out and denies you your privilege to vote. And because it denies you your privilege to vote, then it's unconstitutional to do mail-in voting. And also, two, this also sets up an evidentiary precedent. Who's got the burden of proof? Who is the one that needs to overcome who's the one that needs to prove the election was rigged, that everything was legit? Is it really, if I say I believe these claims, let's say I signed on to this lawsuit with Sidney Powell, say theoretically I lived in Georgia, I'm one of the parties affected, my vote was taken because my signature didn't match, or I forgot to sign the ballot. So you got to ask yourself, is it really my burden of proof to prove to you that the election was not defrauded, since we have all these fancy computers? I mean, shouldn't I be able to load up an app on my phone and then I could run some open source code that I could scan a blockchain that had all of the votes? You could release them in real time, but then I could download it with my own phone. I could verify it. A judge could also download the code from a place that they know is legit in such a way that they don't have any man-in-the-middle attacks. And then that judge could also then run that code and say, nope, we actually are able to run the scan from my own computer using a blockchain because I got all the election data. All it takes is just giving you a ballot ID number. So when I put these ballots through the ID, I shouldn't be able to Xerox one ballot, run it through like 10,000 times or run one batch with multiple thousand Xerox copies of the ballots. Should not be able to run that through multiple times. Should have a serial number associated with every single ballot. If we get a duplicate serial number in with these ballots, then we're going to have a big problem. If the number of the ballots doesn't equal the number of the signatures, we're also going to have a problem. But also, too, if you get a ballot number, then you can go back and you can check to see whether or not your ballot was checked. So these systems aren't new. This isn't like something that's revolutionary. I mean, when I buy something on Amazon, they give me a receipt. It has a tracking number on it. I can monitor where the thing's at along the process. It informs me when the package has arrived at my house, and this allows me to pick up the package before a thief comes out. I can go right out when the Amazon guy gets here, or gal, or if you have some other weird funky gender that you would like me to refer to as Z or they. Hell, I'll even call you Elmo if you would like. But we have a lot more security with our Amazon packages to our house than we do our ballots. You know, if you drop off your ballot ends up at a Zucker box funded by Mark Zuckerberg. It's got these sketchy solar-powered cameras that turn off at night. So you can just go in at night and then take out all the Republican ballots. And when you're ballot harvesting, then, you know, it's we have no way to verify the integrity of that election. We can't check up to see, okay, I gave my ballot to a ballot harvester. Did he like throw out my ballot? Where did my ballot go? All these questions, they're really, really easy to answer if we didn't use a system that was so ripe for fraud. I mean, this system that we got going on right here is like, what happened to that suitcase video, or the suitcase gate video, where you got they said, oh, there's a water pipe burst in the State Farm arena. So we need to get everyone out. Everyone's got to leave the ballot counting areas. And then when they do, they pull out suitcases or crates full of ballots out from underneath a table with a really sketchy tablecloth over it. And then Biden all of a sudden gets 125,000 more votes than Trump. You know, like, how does that? And then he wins by 20,000. Like, how does that happen? I'm not buying that one. That one doesn't really just happen. So the burden of proof cannot be on just one particular person. The burden of proof needs to be built into the system. If it's not built into the system, you're going to have people exploiting that. People are going to know how the election system works. They're going to be a risk to blackmail through exploitation, through like race riots, turning people into election fraudsters because they hate Donald Trump because they got Trump derangement syndrome. Next thing you know, they're working for China and Iran. I know that these claims are, you know, they're definitely some James Bond stuff, but the Chinese military has been trying to hack everything that they can. Anything that the Chinese military can get into, you can bet your bottom dollar that they're going to get into it at some point in time, because they are really, really, really good at that. Like, we're technologically inferior to these people. So let's see. We got more info here. It's the end of this segment, but it's a long live stream. So just keep tuned in. It is 1 hour and 46 minutes into the live stream. We've barely touched the beginning of these articles. Might end up being a multi-day stream. because, well, it does appear as though there's a lot of them. Not that many. Okay. I've tried to do 50 articles in a night, and it's just like torture. At the end of the night, I'm like fighting off yawning on every single response, but it's only 12:24, so I'm good to go. Don't forget to smash that like button. You like this content? You thought it sucked? Hit that dislike button. Tell me about how much it sucked down there in the comments down below. And don't forget, the best way to help this channel grow is to share this video on social media and to subscribe at RSS Commentary on YouTube. Ring that notification bell. Tell you exactly when I'm notified when I am going live.